Hello students, your instructor here, John Mandula with another screencast. This one is called Weiss, or Weiss, or I think it's pronounced Weiss. Let's go with that. So it is a very different kind of serif, and at first glance it doesn't seem all that different, but the more you look at it, the more quirky it seems. I think it's actually kind of an ugly typeface, but we'll look at what makes it look the way that it does. So first of all, there's some things with serifs going on that are a little odd. For example, if you look at the N here, generally there's a serif here. There's this extension of this diagonal stroke, but it's not one there at all. And the U, which generally is just a round in the bottom, has a foot serif. So that's interesting too. Another thing you notice after you look at it for a while is that the strokes aren't the same thickness. So, like the T, for example, the stem, you'll notice it's actually wider at top than it is at the bottom. This is consistent throughout the entire typeface. The D is wider at top than at the bottom. The U happens twice. The R goes down like that. A letter like the X is interesting in that it's thick, and then it gets thinner, and then it gets thick again. So very odd kind of typeface in that sense. The V, again, it seems to get even pointier at the bottom because it's getting thinner. The A is interesting in that it stops almost perfectly vertical here, and its serifs don't come to perfect points, they come to little nubs. And like on the T, for example, you see that nub actually extends above the crossbar. The R seems almost a little bit too top heavy, and that the bowl seems a little bit too big, and the leg perhaps a little bit too short. Letters like the E, it comes to a finial, but actually it comes to like a chiseled finial, which is interesting. You'll notice that same chisel on the A, on the U, and in other letters, especially in the lowercase. The S, this is probably what's most annoying to me about this typeface, is the letter S. It looks like it's top heavy, and that it's leaning forward like it's going to fall over. Generally, in typefaces, the top and bottom are symmetrical. In other words, their negative space takes up the same amount of space, or the top is slightly smaller, which is probably more normal. This one, I haven't measured it mathematically, but it appears that the top is larger and is leaning too far to the right, and so it seems very unbalanced to me. It's a very interesting typeface. It looks kind of classic in that sense, and yet there are things about it that just seem awkward. Like, excuse me. So if you look at like the capital E here, you can see that what's interesting is that all the arms and legs are the same exact distance. The top two serifs seem to be vertical, and the bottom one seems to be angled out a little bit. Just interesting little things like that. The A has come to a point, so that's a nice thing actually. But overall, the typeface is just kind of awkward. The M, you'll notice there's no serifs up top. It's almost like Trajan in that sense. Just serifs at the bottom. The B, again, much like the S, it seems that the top is too big for itself, as if it's top heavy. The stress is slightly diagonal. It has relationships to Roman letter forms like the typeface Trajan, but it's just a very interesting typeface. If we look at some of the other letters individually, you see the W has that nice crisscross, which is very elegant. That's my daughter in the background. But it's just odd, like the F seems, it's got this vertical stop here. See if I can enlarge that at all. But it just seems as if it's cut off, as if it's not allowed to be what it wants to be. The B has like just the hint of a spur, not even a full serif or foot or anything like that. The T has a concave cupping or bracketing to go from the left edge of the crossbar to the top of its ascender. And the Y, again, has that kind of chiseled or stopped descender on it. It's very interesting. Alright, so as you can see, it's a very odd typeface. Like the R comes to a perfect vertical stop there. Again, the small S is just the large S, and that it's top heavy. Things like that. Let's look at probably the only noteworthy example I can even find. And actually is something that's quite near and dear to me, despite the fact that it's an awkward and confusing typeface. It's the Stout logo, University of Wisconsin Stout. This is where I went to college, and so that's why I'm familiar with this typeface, because I'd never seen it before then, and I haven't seen it anywhere since then. Again, all of like the major characteristics that make the typeface quirky are evident in the word. So you see the top heavy S that's leaning over, the T that gets narrower as it goes to the bottom, and the spurs that stick up above the crossbar, the U with the foot serif, and then this is kind of a condensed or narrow version of itself. But that is Weiss in a nutshell.